Hi.
And thank you so much for joining me today. So, in our last conversation, you mentioned the word hope, and hope is something that the world just needs a bit more of. And that's almost sounds both cliche and I think it's a song. So,
Probably.
so a song maybe back in the 70s. And so why? What, where are we as a society that hope is kind of at a loss and we're at a loss to find it? And where are you in terms of helping people regain hope? I know
Such
that's a bit it's a big question.
it
And
is a big question.
but you talked about things that you're doing both personally and professionally. So this is not so much a big question. This is a passion for you and your husband.
It is. There's no doubt about that because uh you know, I'm pretty sure everybody would agree that in the last couple of years a vast majority of our people around the world have experienced trauma. And out of that trauma, there has become a much greater increase in suicides, a much greater increase in depression, especially among our young people. Our young people look around at all the things that they've seen in the last couple of years and they're like, what the heck? And they start to kind of feel hopeless
Mhm.
because they can't imagine living with this level of depression, anxiety, stress, et cetera, et cetera. They got a lot of years in front of them, and they just can't imagine living with all of that. So yeah, I think right now bringing hope and love, maybe that's it too. I think the song you were thinking about is what the world needs now is
Yeah,
love,
maybe.
sweet love.
There we
Yeah.
go. Now
Yep.
I'm aging myself.
But hope and love absolutely go together in wondrous ways. So, it's all good. But to me, I believe personally that we were all born with a piece of what I like to call a super puzzle. That if we were creating our piece of the puzzle and we were snapping them all together, then we would be living on a planet with health, wealth, and peace for all. And the fact that we're not right now is a really clear indicator to me of the number of people who are still sitting in the bleachers and waiting to watch other people on the playing field.
So you want more people to get involved?
I want more people involved, absolutely, of creating whatever is inside them
Okay.
that could bring more hope to more people.
Okay.
Because those of us who have danced on the planet for a while, we all have a story. You tell this all the time. Everybody's got a story.
Everybody I have talked to tells me their story.
Exactly. And it's that story that becomes the core for providing hope to others. Because I've been through difficulties, you've been through difficulties, every one of your guests has been through difficulties. But when other people can hear about the difficulties that you've been through and they can see that you actually found a way over, around, and through it, and you're still striving, you're still thriving, that's where hope is born. It's like,
Mhm.
wow, if they survived that, then maybe I can too. And, those are the things that have to happen if we're ever going to experience peace on the planet. And peace has to start with us. It has to start internally. The class that I created called Find Your Song and Sing It, finding or creating work that you love.
Is that the whole?
Some
That that's a big
that's
name.
that's a big name,
Okay.
but find your song and sing it. And then the subtitle, right?
Okay.
Finding or creating work you love.
I love it.
And the whole concept of that is that we should all be not just finding our song, but singing it or living your song, as I
Right.
like to call it. And living our song, each of us taking the responsibility for finding that heart song and living it, that's the beginning of personal peace. And then that becomes the beginning of planetary peace.
Well, I can't add too much value to that because that was just perfect. But I did want to ask you a question. So going back a few steps, because you mentioned some really big words. Suicide is a big word. Depression is a big word. These are, eh, sometimes they're individual, sometimes they're united. They're traumatic experiences. Depression sucks.
It
A-
does.
and if you are successful with suicide, it sucks for the rest of the people that you know. Maybe not for you because you've removed yourself from the pain, but everybody else now has to experience what you were trying to communicate to them. Um, my conversations with people over the past 6 months, they've told me that the pandemic is not the source of their pain. Like, it wasn't why they're feeling frustrated, depressed, scared, fearful, those things. They've told me that those feelings really started prior to the pandemic, given its quarantines and all the other things that go along with it. You had it at a level of stress. It was the facilitator, it was that pivot, it was whatever that kick in the butt that told each individual, again, just whom I've had conversations with, that I need to change. And they needed to find their song and they needed to live it. And I'm going to use your words. Not everybody uses the same words, but in essence, the story is very similar.
Mhm.
Uh, the question that comes up over and over again is, who am I? So it's no longer about me fitting into a box. And I've got a colleague over in the UK, and we talk about this rather frequently. It's not so much putting ourselves in this defined parameters that other people have put on us, but it's then going back, going inside, as you've just indicated, reflecting upon what's important. Who am I? What am I all about? What's my purpose? What's my value?
Mhm.
And then living that. And so, how are you able to help people accomplish that? Because that's a path. That's a journey. And
It
I
is.
like those metaphors, analogies, because I use them in my stories.
Mhm. Absolutely. And that's part of the beauty, is that, like, the class that I created, it is a process. I created the process based out of my own journey.
Mhm.
So I know that if people will follow the process, it will work for them. The challenge is that, so many people get caught up in the fear, which is, everything from false evidence appearing real to, I had a minister once who called it forget everything and run.
What?
Yeah.
Run away?
Yeah, run away, forget everything and just run. That's what fear is, right? So, and it's that fear that puts us into analysis paralysis.
Right.
And, it's like, oh my God, I can't, what if I make a wrong move? And it's like, some of the mentors out here talk about the word mistake and say it's just a mistake. So you got to go back and take two, take
Right.
three, and not worry about whether it's wrong or not, because it's only through activity knowledge that you start to find your heart song path, because that is part of the truth of it, is that if you are stuck feeling anxious, depressed, whatever, I truly believe depression, at least an element, is as much of the spirit as it is anything else. That, in my lifetime, is when I've experienced depression, is when I was way off the path that was actually in alignment with my spirit.
Mhm.
And so when I was able to get more onto the path, the depression would lift, things would start to move forward again. And so, the process that I have created, it starts with 4 questions. And if people will answer those 4 questions honestly, and with maybe a little bit of vulnerability, then they can start to usually get a sense of where it is that they're being called to. What is that heart's desire? Sometimes some people think of it as being embedded in the subconscious mind. And that's true too, because the subconscious has recorded every emotion, everything we have done since we landed on this planet. So it's all there. And if you're not paying attention to it, it can start to sabotage you. It can trip you up and you don't even know it's operating in that way. So, the 4 questions that I tell people to ask themselves is, first of all, if you had a closet full of money that was never going to run out, what would you be doing with your time? If the only
Is
answer
that a
they
real
can,
question?
that's a real
That
question.
okay. That was the first real question.
That was the first real
Okay, I
question.
was going to ask you if you were able to give away the secret sauce here. So good. I'm writing this down.
Well, and
I'm serious. I got paper. I'm writing all this down.
I'm giving it away, but in this day and age, people don't do anything with the information they receive. That's why coaches and mentors are making money, because it's only when you put the money out to make somebody hold your feet to the fire that you actually do something with it. So that.
But the first question is the resources. If you had all the resources to do something with, what would you be doing with your time?
Exactly.
Well, that seems kind of weird. I'm sorry.
Why?
Because I went going back to, have you watched the movie Office Space, like from the 90s? About, okay. Well, it's about this guy, young guy out of college, software developer, goes to the cubicle every day. I'm going to put the link in our LinkedIn direct message. And just asked himself, or was with a friend at his hotel apartment, if I had $1 million, I'd sit and do nothing because I wouldn't need to do anything. But you're saying, but you don't want somebody, because you said there's too many people who have such great stories to tell and to share, to inspire, empower, and motivate. It's up to all of us. And so if we had the resources to do what we want, what would we do?
Well, and see, when somebody answers that way, that just is a clear indicator to me that their head and their heart are not connected. That's what
if I
my
would do nothing?
process. Yeah.
Okay.
If you think that you're here on this planet to just do nothing, then you are not connected. And that's what my process is for, is to help connect.
That makes sense now.
Okay. So that's the I'm going to call it the top level question. But the other three are designed, if you haven't got a good answer for that first one, and the first one, most people say, I'd be traveling everywhere. I'm like, well, that just means we have a society of people who are tired and need more vacation. Usually I go into asking them about, well, so where would you travel and why? Would you do anything in these different places? It's about pulling stuff out of people that they don't even know is there.
Yeah.
So the second question, which is probably the most powerful one, is what challenges have you been through in your life that you have come over, around, or through and developed some wisdom and some knowledge that would benefit somebody else?
I can't write all that down. It's a long
so you can go back and listen to the recording.
I sure will. So, but this is a dichotomy, because you said, what challenges have you gone through that could benefit somebody else?
True.
Most people don't go through challenges thinking about benefiting somebody else. They just want to get over the challenge. They want to get through that depression. They want to get through the hard time, because hard times suck.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Absolutely. But that's where hope comes from. Okay. And see, nobody wants to talk about the difficulties they've been through. Do I want to talk about postpartum depression? Not really, but I do, because it helps me to give people hope that they might make it through the other side too. Do I like talking about foreclosure? No, but I do, because other people who are going through it or have recently been through it think there's no hope for them in the future.
Wow. Okay.
So it requires that we be willing to be a little bit vulnerable and share so that we can provide hope to other people. And that one, if we will do it, can do more good in the world than anybody can ever imagine. But so many people are like, oh, I'm too ashamed, I can't talk about that. It's like, no, stop. Stop wallowing in, or as a minister I used to have said, stop staring at the Naval Academy. Stop staring at your own navel and think about how you can help others with your story. I believe everybody should be writing their story.
do you tell people that, because sometimes we kind of know it in our subconscious that we're not alone, but because we're so sunk in that hole, we feel all alone. It's a lonely place to be in all those places to be in depression,
Yes.
foreclosure,
Yes.
financial
Yes.
problems,
Yes.
marital problems, whatever they are.
Yep. Absolutely.
Those are hard, difficult places in life to be in. And
Mhm.
a lot of times, and this is just a blanket statement, it may not be 100% true, there aren't anybody holding our hands through those times. Sometimes we got to face them
Mhm.
alone, which makes
Mhm.
the situation overly burdensome and weary, fearful,
Yes.
weary,
Yes.
stressful, anxious.
Yes. Absolutely. I agree totally. But it is such an important thing to share if you can find the courage, the strength, and the humility to do it. Because the only reason anybody has to share stuff like that is a desire to help other people. It's out of love. And here's the other thing that I believe
This is
is,
question 3.
no,
Okay.
but this is part of what I believe about that whole thing,
Okay.
is that if we're really honest with ourselves about what is our heart song, what is it that we're here to do, it is very often tied to that very question. We go through it for a reason, so we
Hmm.
can help other people get through it. That,
So in a bigger spiritual sense, there truly is purpose for each individual on the planet. For
yes,
whatever it is, big or
yes,
small, whatever it is,
yes.
that their life experience then becomes their purpose. And I've that theme has come up more than once in conversations that I have. And it then pivots to that individual, whoever went through the experience,
Mhm.
in the time that they were going through the experience, was looking for that somebody or somebodies to kind of hold their hand, to help them walk, just to encourage them.
Yes,
And the phraseology is they became the person that they were looking for. So then
yes,
they became that purposeful person helping others, whether they do it for money, not for money, doesn't matter. Um, because I have conversations with people all over the world and I don't do it for money.
mhm,
I just do it because there's a heartfelt story here,
yep,
and people need to hear that message.
mhm, absolutely. Ready for question 3?
But I guess so, but I'm not ready to, it depends on how long it is. Go for it.
This is a short one.
Okay.
What are the hobbies or projects that you love to do?
Well, that doesn't make any sense. You just
Well, of
talked
course
about
it
going
does.
through trauma and then you jump ship on that and you say, what hobbies, what things do I like to do?
Well, because for some of them, there is a heartfelt passion towards them. And I'll give you an example. I know a guy, in fact, he was the inspiration for me creating the Find Your Song class. And he had been unemployed for 18 months,
Oh my gosh.
software
That's
quality engineer.
that's a lot of months.
It is. And it was crazy because he had a great personality, a fantastic resume, nothing wrong with his job experience. There was no logical reason for him to be unemployed. And so we sat there, because I was a recruiter at the time as well. And we sat there and I looked at him and I said, so we've covered all the logical things you've done, and there's no logical reason that you're unemployed. So let's get illogical. And he kind of got like, ooh, what's she going to say now? And I said, what's hiding in your closet that you have great passion for that you're not paying attention to? And his face turned beet red and he looked down at his shoes and he said, my
That naval
guitar.
look, huh?
Yeah, it was my guitar.
Really?
And I said, really? When's the last time that guitar saw the light of day? He said, about 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, oh my God. And I said, but then he just started bubbling. I mean, it was like this spring bubbling up. And he was like, but oh my God, I love to play and I love to sing and I love to write my own music. And I'm like, whoa, okay, honey. I said, there's your key right there. I said, you are not paying attention to
Did you say that
something.
really? Okay, honey.
Yeah, I did. I said, you're not paying attention to something that you have great passion for in your heart, and your subconscious is blocking you from your next job. And he's like, right.
Right. Yeah. I would have probably said the same thing. That doesn't make no sense.
Well, but it does. You just don't understand why.
I don't
And
understand.
yeah, well,
Oh,
and
is that what you told him?
yeah, and it's true for you too,
Okay,
because
well,
people who are very much in the left brain world, like most of our software friends are, they don't understand this head and heart connection. They don't understand how the subconscious works. If the subconscious has recorded all this information about how passionate he was about playing the guitar, and all of a sudden he's not doing it, all of a sudden it's going ding, 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 ding. Why aren't you playing guitar? You had great passion around that.
Mhm.
So here's what happened. I challenged him. I said, go home tonight, you get that guitar out and you see what you're inspired to do with it. And so he did. And he was inspired to call his church to see if he could get on the list to play for the congregation,
Wow.
because he knew if he did that, it would force him to practice.
Yeah.
And the minister said, yes.
Cool.
And so 2 or 3 days later, this same individual gets a call out of the blue from a company he never heard of. And he said, and they're like, wow, we love your resume. We've been searching for you. And he's like, who are you? I've never even heard of you. And they said, we're a plant startup. And we want to know if you can come in and interview today.
Wow.
And he was like, okay. And he went, and they made him a job offer on the spot.
Wow. Well, good.
So as soon as he reconnected his head and his heart, he stopped sabotaging himself, and away he went. And if you truly do believe in spirit, if you believe in a creator, I believe that that was the creator's message saying, well done. It's time you get back to that hobby of yours that you were so passionate about.
I don't know what to say about that, to be quite honest. But I do recognize in certain teachings, law of attraction and mindset training and all those other things, that there are 7 principles, and really 8, that talk about being in alignment, and left brain, right brain, and the holistic you, and all those kind of things. And so I recognize that, and it's not just for men or those people who are strongly logical thinkers. This individual is apparently not just a logical thinker, because playing the guitar is as much creativity as it is logic. You do have to have the skill to do it, but you have to have the passion in order to do it well. And so I do recognize the value of being holistically aligned with who you are. More people are not in that space, because it's easy to be one or the other, to be in that dichotomy,
Right.
Rather than, and I've heard, and I teach tech. I'm an IT instructor, and when do I hear a lot? I'm not creative. What do you mean you're not creative? You just literally solved the problem. You use technology to do it.
Right.
You literally solved the problem. How is that not being creative?
Exactly.
You actually solved the problem. You didn't just type in, tap the keyboards a few times and make the technology work. You thought about what was needed, what the client needed, what technology would fit in that situation. You tested it, you planned it, deployed it, tested it. How is that not being creative? It doesn't look, you're not playing a guitar by any means, of course not. You're not singing and dancing on the stage, yeah, of course not. But you had the ability to think through not just the logic of it, but the process of it.
Yes.
You created this, you created the solution to the problem.
Exactly. And that is all in itself a creative process.
Right.
And that's basically, I apply the principles of problem solving to people being unemployed. I mean, it is straight out of corporate training, plan, do, review. I mean, that's what I do as part of this class. And and so the final question, now that you can see the relevancy perhaps
I'm
of
teasing you.
hobby.
I'm with you. I'm totally with you.
But the fourth question, if people can't come up with a relevant answer to the first 3, then the fourth one, it's a catch-all. because
Okay.
there is nobody on the planet who I believe can honestly say they can't come up with something to this one. And that is, what makes you either really, really angry or really, really sad?
Mm. Aren't they the same?
They're not the same. They're both strong emotions, and they are both tied to what your passions are about.
Mm.
So, and if you say, well, there's nothing, well, I'm sorry, you haven't turned on the news lately, have you? You're going to tell me there's nothing out there that makes you want to throw something at the TV, or just make you cry because it just isn't right? I mean, for me, I'll share my story on when I first kind of started to catch on to what really got to me was when Hurricane Katrina happened in New Orleans. Every time I would see all these people trapped in the Superdome and trapped in the convention center, I would burst into tears.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know why. But then it was
Was that
interesting.
back in 2008? Something that's
Mm,
quite
Yeah, it might even be longer ago than that. I
longer
almost
than
think
that.
it was in the I almost think it was in the 1990s, but
Oh my
I
God.
could be wrong.
Okay.
But anyway, I happened to be in a friend's living room one day when some of this stuff came on her TV, and
Mm.
again I burst into tears, and she had the good sense to turn around and look at me and go, Cheyenne, what about this is making you cry?
Mm.
And I didn't even know what was going to come out of my mouth. I honestly didn't, because when I heard myself, I was like, wow, there's a thought that I haven't even consciously had before, but this was apparently in my subconscious, and it suddenly pops out. And that was that it hurts my spirit to know that that many people have been trained to wait for the government to save them.
Hmm. That's an interesting thought.
Because that is a core piece of what motivates me. Is I believe at the spiritual level we are powerful beings,
Mm-hmm.
and the only reason we have so much poverty and such is because people are being trained to believe they are nothing more than victims, and that they must wait for somebody to save them. And so that's what made me cry every time I saw those people trapped there
Well,
on
that's another whole
TV.
conversation
It is absolutely.
because there's that's one of those rabbit holes we could definitely go down, but I don't typically do that kind of podcast show.
Mhm.
Um, but in essence, you've then got in touch with yourself.
Mhm.
It was somebody bringing to light, and it may just been a flippant question. I mean, it was just you were showing uh, you're overtly, sad, so just an expressive emotion, and what's going on with you? It's like,
Yeah.
so why? And but it was directed, it was intentional. What about this was making you feel the way that you are? Very
Mhm.
much what a therapist or a counselor would say to a client,
Mhm.
in that kind of way. And so
Mhm.
your
Mhm.
friend was spot on,
Yeah.
but then it helped you kind of do some self-reflection.
Well, and a lot of what my husband and I do, I mean, you heard me in the podcast we did earlier talking about wellness empowerment.
Mhm, mhm,
Well, that's part of what we see out here right now. We talk about wellness empowerment, we talk about prosperity empowerment, because we believe we have been empowered with a lot more ability to keep ourselves well than
mhm,
what anybody's telling us. We believe we're empowered with a lot more ability to climb out of the poverty trap, to be prosperous than what most people are telling us. So, so that one moment where I was expressing all this emotion and my friend was just inspired to ask why, that became an understanding that powered a whole lot of passion and a whole lot of creation, because
mhm,
everything we're creating now is built around those ideas.
mhm, which is really good. And so what's what's going on now in all of that? So what are you doing today, this year, that is empowering people? What's going on right now?
Lots.
Lots. Okay.
Yeah, because first of all, I have your Find Your Song and Sing It class, which I am now in the process. It's being recorded daily right now and being put up online so that people can access it,
Cool.
through an online platform. So that's part of it. Then the other part of it is we have 3 different empowerment teams going on right now. So we've got the prosperity empowerment team, we've got the wellness empowerment team, and we just started a team called Conscious Community Builders Alliance.
Wow.
So, these are
Are these on your website?
teams. Um,
'Cause I just want to put them
they've
in the
all
links.
they've got different links.
Okay.
I'd have to give you more than one link, but they will be connected to some other websites here in the very near future. But yeah, I can send you those links. And each of these teams were bringing together small business owners to collaborate together to create full-scale programs to teach people how to be wellness empowered, to teach people how to be prosperity empowered. And then the Community Builders Alliance has come together because we are a group of people who all have the same vision, and we're all struggling to get this vision done. But we know if we come together and collaborate and brainstorm and mastermind together, the answers will start to materialize. And this group all is envisioning creating new types of communities that will house people that need housing, that will heal people who need healing, that will teach vocational trades and entrepreneurship so that people can become self-sustaining. My husband and I just call it creating heaven on earth. That's kind of our way of looking at it. So that is what the Community Builders Alliance is all about. And we're just bringing together the people who know what needs to be done and are just out here looking for the resources to get it done.
Cool. I love it. I'm so blessed and honored to have had this conversation with you. It's inspiring for one, truthfully. And I hope that those who have the opportunity and are invested in their own well-being, will watch this on my YouTube channel. And this is going to get, rebroadcast as a podcast on Spotify and Anchor and whatnot. So
Awesome.
I just love it. And hopefully, if you are so willing, you could kind of come back. Maybe members of your teams or team can kind of talk specifically about what each of your team is doing at any point in time in the future. Because
Sure.
at this point, like you said before, and like we kind of said at the beginning of our conversation, at this moment of human history, we need more hope than ever before. And if you're going to give it, then people need to hear that message.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me today. It's been an honor to be here.
Thank you so much.